You're listening to Real Investor Radio with Craig BeVier and Jack BeVier, where we cover advanced real estate investing topics to help you stay ahead of the curve in your real estate investing business.
Hey, this is Jack BeVier with Real Investor Radio. Craig BeVier is out this week at his daughter's softball tournament, so it's just me today. But I'm excited to have a fantastic guest who I got to meet a couple months ago. Malhar Bhagat is a real estate investor out of Atlanta and is very experienced, does a ton of different stuff. So I'm looking forward to talking shop today to get his perspective on what's going on in the market and his experience as a real estate investor. So, hey, Malhar, welcome to the show. Really appreciate you coming.
Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, so just to give a background, I was super impressed. We got introduced by a friend, Pat Flynn, out of Jacksonville, and was super impressed with your background. You've been doing this for a long time, doing a lot of different stuff over the years. If you wouldn't mind, just take us through the history, how you got into the business, the kind of stuff that you've been working on over the years, what you're into now. That would be a great place to start.
For sure. So I started in the business during the last big economic downturn, the Great Recession, 2008. I was in a really tough spot. Honestly, didn't even have $100 in my bank account back then. What I did have is good credit, and I kind of crashed and burned the family business. So felt really responsible, super financially strapped, not just for myself, but kind of jeopardized my family's livelihood as well. So in the midst of that, I was on this internal search for what the heck do I do with my life? I was 25 at the time, or 24, something like that. Anyway, pretty young, mid 20s. And so I ended up going to one of those free 3-day seminars where they're going to teach you all about real estate, right? So I actually did go, and, obviously didn't understand sales pitches and all that at the time. So what they have you do in the 3 days is get your credit limits up. This is a way for you to learn negotiation, right? So I went ahead and did that. I had good credit. And so I ended up, long story short, getting a bunch of credit cards, put a $40,000 real estate investing education across multiple credit cards, and got involved in the business. My very first deal, so they taught me how to essentially evaluate deals, write offers. And if you remember, that time was a very challenging economic time. I was living in New Jersey with my parents at that time, just because I couldn't afford anything. And so I learned how to invest remotely initially in some of the top foreclosure markets around the country. So my very first deal, despite living in New Jersey, was in Charlotte, North Carolina. And everything that could go wrong on that deal did go wrong. But I worked through it all and made a little over almost $19,000, about $18,900 or so on my very first deal. And I was like, holy crap, this is the most money I've ever held in my life in a check. And this could really work,
Was it a wholesale deal?
It was not. It was a remote rehab deal. So yeah, so I
on your first one, how'd you pull that off? You found the contractor remotely, relatively like rehab, I guess. Did you had to go down to Charlotte?
Yeah, absolutely. So all those things, relatively light rehab. My very first one, so I didn't know what the heck I was doing. Looked at the comps, I was like, okay, I think this would be good to do. Interviewed a bunch of contractors over the phone. One committed to me. I had all the paperwork that you're supposed to fill out properly, that I was taught. Send the contractor the paperwork. We just closed on the deal literally on Friday, and I've been waiting for the contractor to send me the paperwork. Literally the day of closing in the evening, I've been calling this guy. He hasn't been calling me back. He emails me saying, hey, sorry, we can't do this job for you. And I'm like, oh crap. I have a 6 points, 15% hard money loan at that time, right? And people ask me, why'd you take such a high hard money loan? Because there were hardly any hard money lenders out there at that time.
That's what it was, yeah. We were 15 and 5 at the time.
Yeah, there you go, right? So 6 and 15, and I was like, all right, well, at least I get to do the deal. And then I borrowed money from a credit card, which I still had some balance. And then my mom actually gave me a little bit of money to kind of bridge the rest of the gap. And when I'm talking a little bit of money, I'm talking like a few $1,000s, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. And yeah, so I was like, okay, I can really get this thing going after that first deal. So remote rehabbing, yeah. Contractor quits. I freak out. Now I go into further debt. Like it was just like spend, right? With no return in sight. And I think that's really important for people to realize, like, you're going to have challenges come up in this business. Like real estate investing tests you, especially in the beginning, and it helps you figure out what you're made of. And so as soon as the contractor quit, like next week, I was like, I've never been to Charlotte. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. But I flew out there and I was like, all right, I'm out here. I was not going to pick up a hammer. I didn't know what the heck I was doing in the construction department. But now I was like, all right, I got to interview more contractors. I'm on the ground. Let's figure this out. My first rehab, that rehab was $7,800, you know? And at that time, $7,800 went a lot further than it does these days, right? But I'm talking, we painted the house, changed out some fixtures, added a little bit of concrete to the driveway to make a more flat area. And interestingly enough, it sat on the market, right? It sat on the market just because the market wasn't hot at that time. I didn't stage it. You know, I didn't do all the things that I do now that I've learned. I got professional photos. The carpet was old and I was like, we got to keep it. Like, I don't have a lot of room. So I kept old carpet, you know, like I just learned all these lessons and it took 3 months to sell. We had a FHA offer and then you have the 90-day flip rule and all the things that I learned on that first deal. It was just like, okay, sock it away. And, you know, after all these years, I've been doing this almost 18 years. At the end of this year, it'll be 18 years. I mean, I could give you a lesson book, you know, with thousands of pages at this point, you know. So
nice. That was your first foray into the business.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to today, you're doing a ton of different stuff. How did that migrate over time?
Yeah, so
you still in Jersey, or you?
No, so now I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. So my first deal was in Charlotte, North Carolina. I did exactly one deal in Charlotte, North Carolina. Then I went into Indianapolis, Indiana. The reason I did is because all the different cities I was looking at, I looked for a few factors: housing inventory availability, cost of living, job growth. Those are like the three big ones. And then I looked for net migration. Are more people moving into that city or moving out, you know? So as I saw that, and then landlord-friendly states as well. Indiana hit all those marks. And so after my first deal, I was like, oh, I was able to raise some capital. And so I was like, it wasn't much. In real estate, it wasn't much, you know, 300 grand at that time I raised. And I was like, oh, now I can go buy rentals. Stupid idea. And so I bought a bunch of rentals in Indianapolis for dirt cheap, $8,000, $10,000, $12,000. I was like, I'm going to retire. And then I stabilized all of them, right? It was only like 5 or 6 rentals at the time out of, you know, the 300 grand. And then I look at my net cash flow. I'm like $800, $900 net cash flow per month. I was like, yeah, I can't survive on this. So I had to kind of back out a little bit. And then I started buying deals in Atlanta very quickly. So I was working Indianapolis, Atlanta, and then also the New Jersey and New York market. So I was kind of spread out a little bit. But then I moved to Atlanta real quick because I was just getting a lot more traction here. There was a lot more housing availability inventory-wise. The market looked ripe, you know, good weather, lower cost of living, good job growth, net migration into it, all those things that I said. And started growing the remote rehabbing business in Atlanta, where I started doing more flips. And, you know, margins at that time were pretty low, 25, 30 grand a flip. And I wasn't doing a ton of margin at that time, or a ton of deals at that time either. So maybe do 2 or 3 deals in a given year. But I realized like I was making steady progress, you know.
What year is this right now?
2009, 2010.
Oh yeah, early, kind of early. Yeah.
Pretty early. So 2009, 10, and then 11, 12 continued to develop that. And then what happened in 2012 was very interesting. That was officially the bottom of the market when you look at all the stats and stuff. 2012, I started listening to all the noise out there, which was, oh, you can't get great deals anymore. It's super saturated. Too many investors in the market, blah, 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 right? Guess what happened? All of a sudden, for 4 months, I had no activity going on because I was listening to the noise, and at an unconscious level, I believe that I was believing it, right? And when you begin to allow that type of negative news and nonsense to penetrate into your mind, it begins to affect your activity. So for 4 months, wasn't doing any business, literally no deals going on. And I was like, oh crap, like maybe the market is bad, or, like, and so I shut it off. I put my head back down, started marketing, and all of a sudden the deals started flowing again, right? So it's like, there's a lot of I guess what I'm saying is there's a lot of freaking noise out there all the time. And I'll get to your point, like how did I get to where I am? So when you listen to all the noise, you think that it's shiny object syndrome. Right now, there's 100 ways to make money in real estate, right? I got really clear and good at fix and flip. That became our bread and butter. And for 10 years, roughly, from 2008 to about 2018, 90% to 95% of our activity was fix and flip. Fix and flip, a little bit of new construction as we were learning it. And then I'd buy some rentals here and there to hold into my portfolio. But I became a beast at fixing and flipping properties. And then it wasn't just me. In 2013, I got married to my lovely wife, who was working a full-time job in New York. So we moved to New York, living in a really small apartment in Manhattan. Couldn't afford it, but still wanted to do that. And I'm glad I did, because I met some of my best investors there and developed some amazing relationships who are friends and investors to this day. So as soon as we got married, next week I asked my wife, I said, let's go to Atlanta. Let's blow this thing up big time. Like, I think we can do it. And to my surprise, she was like, all right, let's do it. Literally. And I was on the fence. I had asked her before we were married, and she was like, heck no. But then once we got married, she was like, let's do it. And I was on the fence. And I said, let's just put our apartment onto Craigslist, see if we can sublet it. And we'll take that as a sign. Literally, we put our apartment up on Craigslist, and in less than 24 hours, we had 7 people that wanted the apartment. So we're like, all right, I guess we're moving. Literally a month and a half after I got married, I was in Atlanta. And my wife, who does now and always has, loved the project management side, the design side, the construction side, and is really good at the project management side. I not so much. I'm great at that. I'm more of a relationship builder, raising capital, finding deals, underwriting, that type of thing. And so in 2000, yeah.
Nice acquisition there.
Yeah. It was incredible. I always have this joke: if you can't find a good contractor, marry them. And so my wife started managing all our projects from 2014 on, and then she was always managing general contractors in the middle. She got tired of it because she's an owner of the business. So she was like, "Look, I want to go out. I want to go ahead and get my own license." So I think in 2017 or 18, she became a licensed GC. So people always get surprised when they meet us too at an event or at a house or something, and they're always talking to me about the construction. I'm like, dude, I'm not the contractor. Talk to her. She knows more than me. Yeah. So she's a licensed GC in Georgia, and I mean, of course I'm biased, but hands down, man, I mean, we get complimented all the time on our renovations. People ask us to do renovations for them. We don't do other people's work just because we are so busy with our own. But she's a beast. I mean, she can build ground up, renovate houses. We have lifted houses in the air and redone foundations and put them down perfectly. Like, we've done all types of crazy stuff.
Where'd she learn the business?
The only thing she's ever renovated was her mom's attic, and she did it by herself with her own hands and, maybe a couple of subcontractors here and there. but she just loved that transformation piece. And she's just naturally a good organizer, project manager. So it was a really good fit for her. I was just like, here's the program that I had bought many years ago. Like, go through it.
Right.
She went through it and she was like, some of this stuff is very theoretical. Like, some of this doesn't really work in real life. So, but she's just learned it over time from watching other contractors, what they did well, what they did not do well, and improved upon it.
That's awesome. So you guys get down to New York in 2013, start building, just finding deals. How you finding stuff at the time? You going to the courthouse steps, REO off MLS?
No, so most of the deals we have gotten, and still to this day, primarily our network. I mean, we buy a ton of stuff from wholesalers. Real estate agents used to bring me a ton of stuff. We did used to do a ton of our own marketing from about 2017 to about 2013. I'm sorry, 2017 to 23. We did a ton of our own marketing, spending literally $40,000-$50,000 a month on marketing. And we were generating a lot of leads, but then there was about a 3 to 6 month period. We spent about $250,000, but we didn't make that back. And that's when I was like, okay, market's slipping, like, yeah, holding the team accountable to do everything was not the easiest. So we just kind of disbanded them. We're like, we're going to go back to basics, what we're really good at, which is networking. And still, to this day, in a hot market, we're still buying deals all the time. We're working on anywhere from 8 to 12 projects at a time.
When did you see that change in terms of your cost of acquisition from direct marketing going up?
I would say it became super clear to me in late 2022. Right around September, October, I started closely watching it. I rode it until March 2023 to see kind of what was going on. The only way we would have been able to catch it is because we keep very close KPIs. Like, I'm a data guy. So we kept very detailed KPI numbers, like every dollar out, every dollar in, cost of lead, cost of contract, cost of closing, every single thing. And we were just losing money. And I was like, can't keep going down this road.
What were you spending money on at the time? Mostly direct mail or other stuff too?
No, actually no direct mail. We were doing a ton of cold calling, SMS. We were also doing PPC. That was doing pretty well for us, but I think what happened during that time, and you probably can remember this, Atlanta became a hotbed for the hedge funds. And so these hedge funds coming in paying literally over ARV values, over market value, literally, and we've sold plenty to them. Now we don't sell anything to hedge funds, but they were literally paying, a property would be worth 300, they'd pay 320 to us. And we're like, okay, so we can lock this up for 275, 280 and still make a nice chunk of change. And that's what happened. Like, people just started overbidding for properties. And so one section of our business did really well, which was the wholesale. But the other section, the fix and flip, was just like, it was more difficult. We were getting squeezed in the middle, plus also COVID. The cost of renovating and labor was going astronomically through the roof. So we as fix and flippers were getting squeezed in the middle.
Yeah. And like, if you can make a wholesale margin and you can make like 60% of the money just wholesaling the thing, like, why do any work? Why take any risk? Like,
exactly.
Take the easy rep. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
So you moved did you move those dollars to other places, or you just decreased that marketing budget and just rolled your sleeves up and got out there and like started acquiring via networking?
Yeah, we didn't shift the marketing budget. It was just like, okay, more money in our pocket, honestly.
Right.
But it just, I started doing a lot more social media. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I have not been great at social media. It's one aspect of my business that I want to continue to develop a little bit more. But as soon as I started doing social media, like, I have a lot to say, as you can see. And we were just getting leads. And as I would do consistent social media, I would do these like 60 or 90-day sprints, and then I'd lose momentum. And I even hired people and stuff like that. But we all have our quirks. I'm kind of a perfectionist about certain things, so I never ended up developing it out. But I'll keep trying. Anyway, long story short, we just found how to vertically integrate. So from 2018 to now, we basically said, okay, what type of needs do we have? Well, one of the problems that I ran into in 2017-18 was a great problem to have. My lenders loved me. They said, stop returning our money. Because every time you return our money, we're going from 8, 10, 12% interest to 0.1% in the bank. And so I said, all right, I'll solve your problem for you. You give me your money, but give me free reign. I can invest in my own deals, but I can also lend it out, right? And they said, okay, cool. We came up with an interest rate that was mutually agreeable, and I set minimums for them. That minimum, and still to this day, was $1 million. If you invest $1 million with me, I'll set up everything, I'll manage everything, and I'll hold your capital for you. I'm always paying interest on it. So if I'm lending it out at a higher rate, at least I can diffuse some of that interest,
Yeah. So, where have you been able to raise money? Was that the New York network or folks that you met through social media?
Most of it has been the New York network. And the thing is, like, a lot of people try to find many investors. My investor base is not a lot of people. And the reason I like less people is less management.
You get $1 million of someone's money, when they call, you need to pick up.
Oh yeah, heck yeah, yeah. I return their phone calls. I send them biannual reports about how much their money has grown. I mean, it's all debt investing, so anyone can calculate it. But we keep very close track of all of our numbers. My operations coordinator has a degree in accounting, so she does a lot of our accounting work. We have VAs that do all that as well. But yeah, so we raise a lot of capital from just our network outside of the real estate business. I think a lot of folks go inside the real estate business because they don't understand better. But here's the thing. Inside the real estate business, you have savvier investors that know, hey, I can charge 3 points and 12, 13, 14% and still get it. So you're going to get higher priced capital.
Yeah, you also have like they want access. They put a premium on their own liquidity because they're seeing deals every day. But the doctor, lawyer, dentist who doesn't have like a constant stream of like opportunities across his desk is like, this money just sits there as like a liability, right? Like they're like, I got to get this. How do I get this to work? That's their problem, right?
For sure. Yeah, 100%.
So what kind of stuff do you guys loan on? Is it all Atlanta, or you guys branch it out?
Yeah, primarily it's Atlanta. We only loan on to people that we know have experience. Our goal is to never take a property back. We want you to succeed. We want you to keep coming back to do multiple deals together. I designed products that would have solved problems that I had when I was an investor. Like, for example, there's not a hard money lender out there that won't take monthly payments. And I realized that was one of the problems I had when I was attempting to scale. So I designed a product that doesn't require monthly payments. And I created enough security wherein in all these years, we've probably done, I don't know, over 300, 400 loans. Not like a full-time lender, but that's a significant amount of loans. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like we've only taken back 2 properties in all that time, which I think is a really good rate compared to some of the stuff I hear hard money lenders taking back. The cool part is we understand construction. So we have a very unique advantage when we do take a property back if we need to, because we've already underwritten it as if what would happen if we had to take it back,
I've really, I mean, it's, for the past 5 years, there's been a lot more people getting into the private lending space. When did you start that?
Around 2018.
Okay, nice. Yeah. And especially like real estate investors that I've noticed, like guys who have gotten to some scale and then kind of like gotten to a crossroads where they're like, this is just some folks that I know up in Baltimore, kind of got to a crossroads where they're just like, hey, the cash flow from the rental business is not what I thought it would be. Like, I'm not actually able to like eat off of this really. It's painful. It's a painful business. Deals are harder to come by. Flipping is a grind because you're only as good as your last deal, your last 6 months of deals.
Yep.
And pound for pound from like your time, like private lending seems really interesting. And they've got all the skill sets for it, right? Like they know who the active real estate investors are, the guys who you'd want to put money with. They know how to underwrite. They know construction. They're not afraid of having to take a property back. They don't want to, but they're not afraid of it, right? It doesn't keep them up at night. And like I'm like, yeah, man, sounds perfect to me. Like it's a great business. Like from a lifestyle business perspective, private, like having a $5-10 million hard money book is like about as good as it gets.
For sure.
That's cool. Yeah, similar stories. That's just lots of folks getting into that, or have getting into it, have gotten into it, who have a lot of experience. And I think it's making the market much more competitive and much more sophisticated. It used to be like some doctor had like $20 million that this is what he did on the side, but now it's like it's like a bunch of ex/current real estate investors who like know the streets and know what good loans look like and don't get hustled.
Yep. And I think, when I started the business, one of my primary goals, and Charlotte is a big banking city, right? So when I landed in Charlotte after that story I told you, I looked up at the buildings in downtown Charlotte, and all of the big buildings had names of banks on them, Bank of America and Chase and so on and so forth. And I was like, those are the richest companies in the world, or some of these banks, right? And in my mind, I'd always said, that's part of the end game. That's part of the end game. One day I'm going to be a lender, and, was able to accomplish that 7 years ago, and still doing the business. I love the business, but yeah, I'm playing my end game. And to go back to what I was talking about a little earlier, vertical integration. On most flip projects, I get paid 4 times, right? I'm the investor, I'm the agent, my construction, right, which is my wife, so it's ours, and then I'm the lender, right? So all 4. So I figured out, how do you extract the most juice out of every deal, and that's how we've been able to do it. So now when an investor is like, oh, I'm gonna make 30 grand on this deal or 40 grand on this deal, I'm like, all right, I'll probably make more than double that, because I'm dipping into every single one of these areas.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Atlanta was a super interesting market because, as you mentioned, the hedge fund entrance there that really started buying up stuff. And so if you were like looking to do your own deals, at least my experience watching that market was that people had to start doing harder stuff, right? Like you couldn't make decent spreads off of doing patch and paint rehabs anymore, or even, and then by 2018, 2019, like even full guts were getting a little skinny for the risk profile.
Yeah.
The wholesaling game was attractive for a couple more years, but then inventory has remained low, I think, and so the risk profile, the execution risk profile of deals has gotten a lot harder, right? If you want to find deals with margin, you have to do more sophisticated, harder construction work. Is that something that you guys have experienced? You mentioned doing some new construction and what's that? How did you guys migrate into those more difficult projects?
Yeah, so Atlanta is a unique market because we get a lot of virtual wholesalers, coming from Arizona or California or Texas. You're dealing with slab foundations in many of those markets. You're dealing with newer types of builds in those markets. So you can just replace the kitchen and replace some light fixtures, good to go. Atlanta is not like that. Most of the houses in proper Atlanta, inside the city limits.
Inside the perimeter,
yeah. Yeah, inside the perimeter. They are built in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. When you're dealing with houses like that, you're gutting them. You got old plumbing, old electrical, old HVAC. And buyers are savvy, especially now. They are pickier than God knows what, right? And so we just found that was an arena that we had to master. But we've always done full renovations because that's what the market required. A lot of these, Atlanta's really separated into 2 parts, in my opinion, which you got the east side and the west side. The West Side has been more transitional, where the East Side is a little bit more established. You have older neighborhoods that have gone through more of the development, transition, gentrification process. But the West Side has been developing quite a bit over the last, especially 8 to 10 years. Now, unfortunately, though, a lot of folks wanted to jump in because the price points are lower on the West Side. But the types of rehabs they were doing is lipstick on a pig. They would take old plumbing, electrical, HVAC and just put nicer stuff. And then the inspections would happen and they would fall out of contract. Right now, we're talking June 2025. There's over 8.5 months of inventory on the West Side. I haven't bought a single deal on the West Side in the last 4 or 5 years. Just because I was seeing that trend happening and I was like, I'm not going into an area where I have to compete against 50 other rehabs in literally a quarter-mile radius,
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, the inside the perimeter, are you still holding rentals?
Yeah. We have plenty of rentals and continue to expand our rental portfolio. Mostly, though, I prefer higher-end rentals. That's something that I learned through the fires,
Yeah. I mean, the home price appreciation in a lot of the Atlanta markets, particularly inside the perimeter, like east side of downtown, is like been incredible. Like places where I remember, like when we were down in Atlanta, like 2011 and 2014, it was like you could get that stuff for 15 grand, and now I'm doing loans where the shell's 150, and I'm like, man, that's wild. You benefit from any of that?
Oh, heck yeah, man. I own some of these rentals that I've owned for 15 years or so. One of the best ones I bought for 30 grand, put about 20 into it, had someone renting it on Section 8 for about 12 or 13 years, was cash flowing nicely, and then they moved out. So I gutted it because it was time to gut it. I gutted it and I put it on Airbnb, and now it's making even more money. And now it's probably worth about 450. So I'm all in for 50. It's worth 450, almost 10x my investment. Plus, I'm cash flowing really well with our short-term rental.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're doing some short-term rentals and ADUs. I'm curious about both of those because they're kind of nichier things that, like, the AD or short-term rentals obviously more operationally intensive. Do you got, like, how many of those do you have? How have you found management for that? Like, is it something you can dip your toe in, or do you need to jump in knee deep or waist deep or head deep to like do it successfully? Like, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, for sure. So short-term rentals, we have, I think, 26 units, all owned. We don't manage other people's stuff. Pretty much, we don't manage anything for anyone else, for any area of our business. So all owned, and it is operationally intensive. However, I got very clear when we did our first one. I said, we ain't doing just one. We're not doing just 3. And the reason I said that is because I figured out the math on what's it going to take for someone else to be hired to manage it so that me or my wife or someone on our immediate in-house team, like office team, doesn't have to go run around for toilet paper and whatnot, right? I figured out that number and I said, we got to get to 20 as fast as possible. So literally in 2 years, less than 2 years, in about 18 months, I got to 20 units, all live, all doing great. And immediately, like before we even got to 20, we hired someone within about 6 months, we hired someone. Just because we're like, we're not doing this like stuff,
And 20 carries a full-time person to help manage.
Oh yeah, for us easily. Plus, not only do they manage just our short-term rentals, now they're freed up more, so they help manage some of our rooming houses, some of our long-term rentals. Now we still have a property manager for our long-term rentals, but we hope one day soon we'll be able to bring it in-house and really develop our own property management side. We don't currently have an interest to manage other people's properties, but we just want to manage all of our rentals, which right now I don't have a massive portfolio for like big investors, but we have about 60 plus doors. I don't know, it'll be like 67 or so in the next like 60 days.
What do you think? Like, is there a number? How many short-term rentals can that one person handle? Like, when do you need your second person?
I think there's multiple components, right? So you have the guest communication, the customer service piece. I have been on a crazy search, especially after the advent of AI, for some sort of AI software. The cool part is about 5 months ago, I found it and it is incredible. We had an entire communication service that we had hired for communicating. We were spending about $1,200 a month. I just love sharing this story real quick. We were spending about $1,200 a month. After I got the AI software, for the same amount of properties, better service, because AI doesn't forget. Once we taught it, it remembers forever. We dropped our costs for the same service, better service, to $169 a month.
What's the software?
It's called HostBuddy AI.
HostBuddy. Cool.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
cool.
There's a bunch now. Reply AI is another one. So I'm looking into other softwares, but HostBuddy's been working out pretty well. So I loved it. I embraced it and have continued to watch it learn by itself. So it's been pretty cool.
I'm really interested. I'm I'm really nerding out on the AI stuff right now and trying to figure out all the applications to real estate and property management and lending. So that's definitely a specific area of interest for me right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you gotta embrace it, man.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what it takes to be a business owner, to be an investor. It's look, if your entire business, for example, was reliant on the hedge funds, which a lot of people's was, guess what happened when the hedge funds were gone? You were out of business. You're going back to the corporate world or working at Macy's, whatever it is, right? And the point that I'm trying to make is you have to have versatility in this business. I always refer to that book, Who Moved My Cheese? Really quick read. But it lies true. It's you got to stay at the forefront. If you don't, you will be swallowed because someone's trying to take your bag. I don't mean that in a scarcity way. It's just you got to be at the forefront. AI is going to be very well integrated into all of our lives. If you're not using it right now, you're just not developing, and you will become antiquated within easily the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, it sounds like something that we've experienced definitely over the years is we've come to think of ourselves. We used to be we're a Baltimore real estate investor. We do affordable housing in Baltimore. Well, and then 3 years went by and we're also going to do this other thing. And then 3 years went by and we're we also need to pivot to doing this other thing. And now we've really kind of fast forward a bunch of years. We've come to realize we're really just we're single family real estate, or we're residential real estate investors. And depending on what the market's giving us at any particular time, we're going to apply that skill set and the balance sheet that we've built up to different areas of the business. But wait 3 years and we won't be doing this. I promise you that. Because if you rewind every 3 years over the company's 25-year history, we're doing a different thing every 3 years. So to think that we're going to, scale in this, you scale to a certain point, but you got to scale in a flexible way that still allows for that pivot because the market's going to move underneath you. The ground is constantly moving underneath you. And then, I couldn't agree more. I think that this AI, I think the AI, the advent of AI and integration of AI and everything is going to be really, really shake the ground underneath a lot of people's feet. And I'm a little scared about it, actually. From a disruption perspective, I don't think it's going to go smoothly, but I feel it's like you said, it's going to be so lean in or die, lean in or be disrupted, lean in or die. So
1,000%.
Yeah. We're head forward into it. What have you been using to learn about that? What resources or?
I'm pretty voracious when it comes to article reading. I am not a great book reader. I do not enjoy reading a lot of books personally. So sometimes in the evenings, I end up just kind of reading different articles about it. And I play around with it. I have a paid version of ChatGPT so that I can utilize it effectively. I'm learning about Claude and Grok and Perplexity. And I think in business, this is a trait that I just inherently have developed over time, which is curiosity. I think curiosity is absolutely critical for you to run anything successfully that you want to get really good at. When it comes to health, even, for example, right now I'm on a health kick, going to saunas, working out every day. I want to get in better shape because I have the privilege to be able to focus on that now. I'm lucky to be able to focus on that. But guess what? I don't have it all figured out. I don't know jack about nutrition, right? But I'm learning about it by being curious and saying, hey, I want to make a move to be better in this area or arena of my life. Same thing applies in business or real estate investing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, it's gonna be really interesting.
yeah.
You mentioned like doing the ADUs. Was that an opportunity that came just because the price per square foot went up high enough where it became economically viable, or was that like a zoning change that enabled that?
So there was a zoning change. We were one of the very first permits to ever be issued when the zoning change happened in the city of Atlanta. ADUs, what I saw based off of, going back to the curiosity piece, I love to read about the real estate market because it's my industry. I better know what the heck's going on in my industry, not just in my own market, but around the country. And I've read in some other major cities, like Austin, for example, there was this idea and concept that either was introduced at the time or passed or something of the parent-child concept on a property and being able to split the ADU or the guest house out and sell that separately. So I did some math and I said to myself, well, I can rent it out right now, but eventually, once the financing gets figured out for ADUs and guest houses on a single family lot or residential lot, the prices are going to go through the roof because let's say in XYZ neighborhood, let's say it's a decent neighborhood on the east side of Atlanta, Kirkwood being an example. That's a nice neighborhood in east side Atlanta. Well, you can't buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for any less than $600,000 in that neighborhood. If you build a 2-bedroom ADU for, let's use a number that I think what retail people will spend, maybe $225, $230, $250 a foot. Yeah. You can build a 750 square foot house for about $150,000, $175,000, right? Let's say $200,000. Well, the minute you're allowed to get financing and break that off, and that might happen in 5 years, that might happen in 10 years, that might happen in 2 years. We don't know. But I believe that it will eventually happen. Mm-hmm. And so now you're at 750 square feet, which is the limit for ADUs in the city of Atlanta on certain types of lots. But now, all of a sudden, you might be able to sell that for $300,000. It's instantaneous equity of $100,000. So that's kind of how I did my math, and I was like, and I'm going to cash flow in the meantime, so I can rent it out because it's a nicer neighborhood, has a higher rent available for it.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, it's a an idea that of like just increased density, right? Just seems to be a trend everywhere, and trying to get past the NIMBY zoning laws to put it in place. I was surprised to see even in Baltimore, the mayor introduced a bill or sponsored a bill that is allowing for an upzoning for multifamily, and that's been like a third rail. We don't want any more density. We don't want any more rentals, like homeownership or nothing for like the past 20 years. And all of a sudden everyone's just like, hey man, like we just need more affordable housing stock. So if like a place, if a place like Baltimore City's coming around to higher density, like, yeah, it's going to be an enduring trend, I'm sure.
You have to. I mean, the reality of the matter is like, and I see this mostly from older people in some of these neighborhoods. They're like, well, I bought my house. I'm like, yeah, you bought your house 25 years ago, 30 years ago. You could afford to buy it with the wages you were making at that time. You talk to someone who's 23 years old, 25 years old right now, they're not making enough to go put a 20% or 5% even down payment majority on a house that's $500,000 at this point, So like, times are different because real estate values go up faster, or historically speaking, have gone up way faster than wages, and that's just how it's been,
Yeah. So, what's your perspective on the market today? Like you mentioned some softness on the west side of Atlanta, but we're seeing like increase in days on market. I mean, in not every market, but in most markets, and now like some concerns about recession, like how are you still finding deals that you're comfortable moving forward on? How are you seeing your inventory moving?
Yeah. Yeah. So honestly, it has softened, even on the east side, even in some of these hotter neighborhoods. I think the market is very uncertain right now, right? There's, uh, all types of economic changes happening. It's almost schizophrenic in certain ways, right? It's like tariffs and no tariffs, and like everything that's going on, right? The point is,
Yeah,
it's very volatile,
yeah,
and
yeah.
volatility does not create certainty for the average home buyer. And so I think buyers are a lot more picky right now. They want the perfect property, and it's got to have all the nuts and bolts tied really well together. They still want a deal because they know there's uncertainty in the marketplace. I have recently sold my properties where we have hit record price per square foot just 6 months ago or 9 months ago. And I literally have sales in that same neighborhood ongoing right now for 8 to 12% less price per square foot than I did 6 to 9 months ago. And you're not going to see that in the data. This is
Right.
the experience that I'm experiencing right now.
Yeah, I have the same perspective where I'm like the past 90 days, prices are down, man.
Yeah.
Like there, I know it's not in the data yet, or, I know it's not in the data that's been reported yet, but I'm telling you, like the contracts that I'm seeing right now are lower than on the same houses than they were before.
1,000% true. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your perspective given that, like, one of the things I like having about like being both a real estate investor in Baltimore, in Maryland area, and then also lending is that, like, there are different points in the cycle. Like if you're in 2021, the equity was like the place to be. I mean, you murdered it, right?
Yeah.
Today, I'm like, like I'm not making as much, but but the risk profile of the debt investments are much lower because if I underwrote it right, I'm at 70% loan to value. So like if prices come down 5%, like I'm not gonna have defaults, right? Like
Right.
sucks that our borrowers aren't making as much as they thought they would, and we hope that they like come back and realize and we hope that as is prices reset to like maintain margins, and I think they probably will, right? I think it'll actually probably get better because of
Sure.
this kind of shakeout.
Yeah.
But like for us right now, like I like being the debt right now. I like the risk profile of being a lender at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, same thing, right? That we just talked about. Who moved my cheese? Like, lean into the aspect of your business that's going to perform better in a changing market. I I say this, and it's not meant to come off arrogant. I'm a win no matter what. That's my thought process, mindset, belief. What area of the business do I need to lean into? This is why I talked about vertical integration. Now, don't do vertical integration too early. I said for 10 years, my bread and butter became fix and flip. We became beasts at fixing and flipping properties. With that as a foundation, we were able to vertically integrate and say, hey, I can lend to XYZ person because I know what to look for. I know where
Yeah.
they're going to screw up. I know how to take that property back and finish it out if I need to. Plus, they're putting some skin in the game. So my cost basis on it, taking it back, is going to be lower than where they're buying it for. So to your point, you got to lean into the market. And I always think about this simple saying that Warren Buffett has, which is, when people are fearful, be greedy. When people are greedy, be fearful. And wealth is created in down markets, not in up markets. So if you're going to freeze and be scared to buy right now, you are going to miss out on potentially the opportunity that's currently here, in my opinion, and will probably be around for at least the foreseeable 12 to 18 months, maybe longer, maybe a little bit shorter.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions like about, hey, are you backing off right now because things are softening a little bit? Like, the inference being like, are you trying to time the market, right? Like, and I've just kind of like gotten to, hey, when COVID happened, I was like, hey, you know what? Let's kill all of our contracts because we're going to have a recession. I've seen this before. Prices are going to come down. Let's stack cash. Completely fucked that up, right? Like I got
Yeah,
that so wrong.
yeah.
And like, and the best deals that we have are when money was the absolute tightest and we could barely, we couldn't afford, or we could barely afford from a cash flow perspective to add rentals. And it was like the hardest to do that. Right. So, to your point, I think like it's more about like build that skill set up that you can deploy it wherever there are opportunities, and where it's hard is probably like in the wake of hard is opportunity.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a bunch of hard right now. So I'm actually like, I'm nervous about the next 6 months, but I'm also kind of like jacked about like once this spring selling season's over, what the depths of like late summer and like once we get into the fall and people start being like, I can't carry this thing for another 6 months. Like I'm kind of jacked about October, like,
Yeah.
and like the stuff we might be able to get in October.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, look, real estate's where it's at. I mean, I love real estate, right? Like if you can hold on long enough, me and one of my friends, Terry, talk about it all the time. The goal is to hold on, right? Hold on as long as you can. And if you can cash flow and hold on, the market's going to come back. Even if it dips right now, it only dips for people that are looking to liquidate at that time. If you can hold on and ride out the market, historically speaking, real estate values go up faster than inflation, right? And you have so many other benefits, right? Which I'm sure you've talked about on previous podcasts. So, I mean, that's the engine for wealth building in this country, period.
Yeah. Hey man, well, I really appreciate your time. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me. It was, really enjoyed it. Your experience has been, is fantastic and it's really cool. Love to see all the stuff that you've branched out to do. So
thanks, man.
Thanks for being on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation, and hope we get to connect again soon. Thanks again.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. All right, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. This is Real Investor Radio with Jack BeVier. Have a great one.